Hello?
Hi, this is Jeff.
This is.
Hi, Jeff. Ben Schlock with the State Police. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I need to speak with you in regards to a report that needs to be made. But before I do go any further with that, you guys' calls are recorded, correct?
No. No, they're not.
They're not. When you call the state police, none of the calls are recorded?
No, not at this office. They're not.
Oh, gotcha. That's crazy because the last office totally was. I'm like, I just assumed that they were all,
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, you don't need to worry about that.
Gotcha. Well, I'm not worried about it. I was only asking because for reasons of my own safety and the situation that I'm calling in regards to, do you mind if I record this call?
You can record, yeah, whatever you want.
Okay. I always got to make sure at the beginning of a call because it is Illinois. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
To be within everything appropriate.
Yeah.
Did you receive a email from Mr. Carr last week or early this week?
Yeah, he gave me a brief synopsis of kind of the facts and what's going on.
Okay, yeah. I can start at the beginning and give you as much information as I can, but starting at the beginning, this occurred originally in the original incident in 2009, November of 2009, 21st, I believe. And I was sitting in my apartment with my door open, watching the rainstorm, listening to music, getting ready to go to bed. And the two sergeants walked up to my door and saw me in my apartment with a small bowl that is used for smoking marijuana in my hand. And with no warrant and no legal just cause, they made entry to my apartment and drugged me out of it. Not witnessing a felony, nobody in danger in my household. Drugged me out of my apartment, drugged me out of my pants in the process. One thing led to another. I was tased 5 times in a puddle of water. And after being put in the back of their, and I was tased 5 times initially, and then I was tased further while handcuffed with the taser in stun mode following the initial tase. I was put in the back of the squad car, and after being put in the car, and after I was called in to dispatch as detained, my heart stopped. And when I woke up, I was laid out on a table in a dark room with the officers that drugged me out of my apartment, where I had just been revived with an AED machine. Following that...
Where was the room at, do you know?
I'm sorry?
Where was the room at? Do you remember?
Yes, sir. It was a second story. It was a second floor room on... Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the address of the location memorized, but it was in Central Park, downtown Decatur. And after I came back to, while I'm looking for this, I'll fill you in on some more of this, but after I came back to, I woke up, of course, I was freaking out because what the hell is going on, And during the struggle, after I came off the table, I saw out the window of where we were at. So I had the perspective to see what was out there and across the street and right in front of me to be able to tell you, where I was. This building is right a block away from the jail.
Indicator, you said?
Yeah, it's about a block and a half away from the jail. But I wanna, is that part? There it is. It's the office building on the corner of South Park Street and North Franklin Street in Decatur. There's a office building there that has a few different offices right there next to each other, kind of crammed in. And it was that building right there on the corner that they had me in on the second floor.
still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to keep.
Oh no, I'll keep going. I thought you were. I didn't know if you were done taking notes or what you were doing there with that
Nope. Yeah, I'm just
information.
writing down notes.
Sure, sure. Following this, after I was revived, I was taken to Macon County Jail and thrown directly into a jail cell with no further appropriate medical assistance.
Was this
Not
the sheriff's office, or was this
not that the medical assistance that I had was appropriate, but I was not taken anywhere as I should have been. And this was Mount Zion Police Department that
okay.
initiated this. It was.
Is that where you live outside?
That's where I lived. Yes, correct. That's correct.
Is that where you live now?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I was put directly in a jail cell with no medical assistance. Following that, I immediately bonded out. I was there for a very short period of time.
What were you charged with?
They were the charges that they have on the police report from Mount Zion indicate possession of paraphernalia for the small weed pipe and resisting a peace officer. And I say it in that manner because these charges disappeared out of court completely after they did what they did. So, it wasn't something that involved just those two guys. It was definitely a lot of involvement with the way that it all played out. I bonded out. I went home. I was in a pretty foggy state of mind, given the circumstances of everything that had just happened and being drugged in the manner that I was after being revived. I made a phone call to my ex-father-in-law because I was in a foggy state of mind, but I was still coherent enough to know that something wasn't right, and I needed to discuss that with somebody that could help, make some sense, help me make some sense out of, what was going on in that manner that needed to be, and kind of ground myself a little bit. So I made a call to have him reach out to the pastor. I wanted to sit down and talk to him. Following this, I had
Let me just interrupt you real quick.
You go ahead.
Just to kind of walk you through, it's like I would consider this like an intake phone conversation and not a formal interview. So just to walk you through our process, like when people call and give complaints, how that works is we'll get a synopsis, a brief, summary of the alleged crime or whatever's happened to that person, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll talk it over with the supervisor of our office to see if we're gonna initiate a case on this and go forward. And then if we do initiate a case, then we'll do a formal interview where you can be as detailed as possible. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, with all due respect, I wasn't calling you guys to ask you if this was a crime. I was calling to have this initiated and reported and processed appropriately per the law of the crimes that these guys did when they killed a man and covered it up.
So you're saying they killed someone?
That's what I'm telling you. Did you hear anything I just said to you?
No. Yeah,
sir, I was electrocuted to death.
Are you referring to yourself, or are you referring to?
I'm referring to myself. I was put out of my apartment illegally with no legal right, and I was electrocuted to death, and I was dead. I had to be revived. I had to be revived from my death with an AED machine, sir. Or I wouldn't be breathing to be able to speak with you right now.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Those officers killed a man. And just because they had access and the ability to revive a man doesn't take away from the fact that they killed a man. From the blacks and whites of the law, sir.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I was just confused there. So if you want to continue.
Anyway, next thing I know, I have another officer from the same department that did everything the night previous shows up at my apartment again and detains me, giving me a story of they received a call from Dr. Patel that reached out to them, telling them that he wanted me to come and speak with him. However, I had no previous history with any kind of doctors of that sort, let alone a Dr. Patel, in my entire life. Nothing, outside of a family doctor. And they detained me. They took me up there. They drugged me into the hospital. I was sat down on a bed in the emergency room. And I'm coherent enough to realize what's going on and knowing enough that it shouldn't be. And when they sat me down in the bed, the doctor came in. He was in there for a matter of a few seconds. I looked at him. I said, "Sir, I never asked to come here. The only thing that I've asked to do today was to speak to a pastor." And he looks at me in response to that and says, "You're crazy." I was then held down on a bed by 2 security guards, and a nurse came in, and I was drugged further. I woke up behind locked doors in the intensive care psychiatric floor of St. Mary's Hospital in Decatur, where when I woke up from the drugs that they gave me, they attempted to give me more pills. And when they did that while I was awake and coherent enough to be able to respond, to what's going on versus being held down and drugged, I told the nurse, I said, "Ma'am, with all due respect, I'm 27 years old and I've not had to take anything like that in my entire life, and I'm not going to start today." Their response to that was to say that I was refusing medical treatment, and they attempted and initiated the process to have me sent off to McFarland because I wouldn't take their pills, despite the fact that I had every right not to. 13 days later, they had a court hearing. We were in there for a matter of just a couple of minutes. They continued the court hearing, and the story that we were given at that time was that something had changed in the laws, what they were at that time versus what the paperwork was written up as, and they needed to reschedule it. That's what we were told. Immediately following that, I sat down with an administrator and a doctor and the lead man of the floor that they had me on after asking to do so, and I shared information with them that I had been taking notes of the entire time that I was in there, of things that I witnessed while I was in there that were illegal, and I witnessed them occur, with all the information necessary to do what needed to be done for it. Asked them if they would like a copy of it. 30 minutes later, all of a sudden, now there's no court case to go to, no further follow-up with the courts, and sir, you can go home. When I went to go to court for it, the case had completely disappeared. They took my bond money from that case, and they put it somewhere where it did not belong. I have all the documentation for this. I've done all the FOIA requests. I've gotten all of the records for the most part that I'm able to do. And in doing that, I learned a handful of things. One, in the initial report that Officer Travis and Officer Stevens filled out for the arrest, he stated in his report that he never discharged his taser. I have a pretty wicked burn mark scar on my arm that says otherwise. That's still there from when he did. Like I said, I was tased in a puddle of water over and over. And in addition to that, I also discovered that, like I said, I flatlined after he had already called me in as detained. So he was on the clock for that. And there's a window of time that I want to say is, if I'm not mistaken, about an hour and 13 minutes that's unaccounted for from the time that he called me in as detained to the time that the timestamp from when I was booked and arrived at the jail. My apartment was 13 minutes away doing the speed limit from the jail. So that leaves about an hour of time roughly unaccounted for. And that's doing the speed limit. That's a lot of it. Okay. That's a lot of it. Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean,
Have you reported this to
I've made multiple
anyone
attempts.
else, or are we just like,
I've made multiple attempts to report this that haven't been handled appropriately.
who did you speak to previously?
My first attempts to report it. Okay, that actually takes me to an important part that I just about left out. My apologies. Okay. For years following the incident, the recollection of the incident that I was left with, that they painted by the actions that they took, was I thought and I felt and was led to believe that I had a near-death experience. The effects of what they gave me created a lot of visuals, bright lights and things like that after being drugged, and as I was being taken into the jail, these things, that occurred kind of like what we hear people describe when they talk about near-death experiences happening. And that was what I was led to believe for a long time. There was an incident that occurred down in Texas where it's just as silly. I'm not going to go into the full details of that situation, but to put it simply, it was just as ridiculous as the situation that I just explained to you. And I was tased in that situation, and the trauma of that tasing triggered a full recollection of everything as though it had just happened. Total recall, very clear. So much so that, like I said, I was able to recall everything down to the details of not only where they had me, but my perception of everything out the window and everything involved. Being taken back downstairs after it occurred and everything. You know what I mean? And that is the first time that I attempted to report this to someone was when I was in Cameron County in Texas. After they did that, I spent every day, multiple times a day, for no less than 6.5, 7 months to Cameron County Sheriff's Office, and everything that I had reported to them and sent over to them had been completely disregarded. Following this, I went in person to the FBI field office in Denver, Colorado, and I went in to speak with someone in person, and when I did that, I didn't even get to tell him very much of anything before the man was pushing me out the door and basically telling me that he didn't have time for the information that I was there attempting to give him, and went on to tell me about how he was dealing with a case that involved people from another country. And I was basically pushed out the door. That's why we're here now, because the people that we paid to do their jobs up to this point so far have not. And that's why I don't want to speak and have no intentions of speaking with anybody about any of this that is not okay with everything being documented for all the obvious reasons, and for my own safety given the magnitude of the situation.
Okay.
I'm in a position where I won't do anything off the record, sir.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's why I'm allowing you to do what.
And I very much appreciate that.
I mean, all of our conversations are recorded anyway, not on this phone like I told you, but we have to wear body cams and everything. So
correct.
I'm used to being recorded and whatnot. Anyway,
we live in that day and age now.
Yeah. I mean, you just always have to act like you're being recorded. Anyway, so I briefly described our process to you. Do you have anything else that you want to add before I pass this information along to my supervisor?
At this point, no, I don't believe so. And let me back up here to my notes. And when you say supervisor, you're referring to Mr. Rossiter?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was in line. And then what should I expect from this point?
A call back when a decision's been made, and then we'll discuss it
Sure. And like I said, this, when we break this all down, give me 1 second. Got some more notes here. Because when we break this all down, there's obviously a huge list of crimes that this does include and involve, and people beyond just those 2 police officers that work for the county that assisted in the case disappearing as a whole. But just to name off a couple of the things that this involves, like I said, just because they had the technology to revive a man after they killed him, that doesn't mean that they killed a man. So even though there was a revival, there was a death involved. And that does equate to murder in this situation, sir. In addition to that, you've also got kidnapping, because there was a death involved. You have torture. You have deprivation of rights under the color of law. You can add a few other things on there: false imprisonment, aggravated assault and battery, et cetera, drugging with the intent to commit a felony.
Right.
Just to name some of those, just to name some of those, as well as conspiracy because of the involvement of the cover-up itself.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So just like for the specific charges, like we obviously, as an investigative body, we don't decide who the applicable charges for investigation. That's up to the state attorney's office, right?
Sure.
So
I'm just putting the I'm basically just painting the magnitude of the situation.
No, I get it, but I just want to explain to you, like, we investigate facts, we turn those over to the state attorney's office, and
Sure.
then they ultimately make the decision on, potential charging decisions. But I'm sure you're aware of that. I just want
this one's pretty easy, man. When it comes down to facts, everything is there that needs to be. They might have made the case disappear out of me going to court that day for it and not being, not having to that part be there. But they left a paper trail for the entire thing that shows everything that happened. And, like I said, including the time windows, they're going to have to account for that time, sir. We've got all of the logs and everything involved. They have GPS on their cars, correct?
In 2009, that I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what their vehicles are outfitted with specifically.
In 2009, their vehicles were equipped with cameras. This is something that I've already verified with their department. Right. And when I made my initial FOIA report following the incident, before even having the recollection, just off of knowing something wasn't right, when I did that initial FOIA request, I also requested the cameras from the car that are equipped with the cameras, and they refused to give those to me. Yeah.
Let me just get a couple pieces of information from you, Jeff. What is your date of birth?
3/13/82.
March 13th. And then what is your current address?
Respectfully, I would like to keep that private at this time.
Okay, that's fine. I just ask everyone their date of birth and address. I already have your phone number.
Sure.
All right. Well, I will give
like I said, I'm in a situation where I need to do everything to the fullest extent to keep myself safe.
Okay. Yeah. No, I respect that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I will give you a call back. No guarantee on a timeline, but I'll definitely call you back. So,
okay. What would you think you would say the latest would be that I would expect to hear from you?
Definitely by next week.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't want to, overpromise and underdeliver, but
Sure,
I can,
sure.
confidently say next week.
I just wanted to look at a roughly worst case timeline scenario to be able to fit in the other things I need to do in between that time. So.
Okay, good deal.
Sure. Alrighty, and
All right.
pronounce your name for me because I'm sure I didn't say it appropriately when I asked for you.
Schlauch.
Schlauch. Mr. Schlauch,
Yep.
I do appreciate your time very much, and I will talk to you again.
All right, take care, Jeff.
Thank you.